Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to review the Pathfinder book for the Pathfinder campaign setting, Misfit Monsters Redeemed by Colin McComb, Rob McCreary, and James T. Sutter. Now, this is part of the monster line that Pathfinder has been working on, and I've reviewed one of those books before, I believe. And I would like to get the others. The first one was very good, and this one is as well, so that hopefully there'll be a theme there. And the design concept behind this was to take 10 monsters that the gaming community at large, specifically the D&D gaming community at large, thought were laughably stupid. They picked monsters that people thought were dumb. Now, at least one of these monsters I disagree with. I'll get to there. And then the idea was to redeem them, to take the stats as they are, lift them from the original, dump them into the game, obviously modified slightly for the Pathfinder system, and then to change the fluff, the flavor, so that the monster could be redeemed and usable by people, and so that GMs would be inspired by them rather than laughing at them. So, the monsters in question are the Adherer, the Delver, the Dire Corby, the Disenchanter, the Flail Snail, the Flump, the Lava Child, the Lurker, the Tojanida, which I am sure I am saying wrong, and the Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. So I'm going to just go through this list and show you what, tell you a little bit about each. Now, some of these I don't remember. I remember vaguely like seeing the entries and the pictures from the original time they were released, because I was around for this entire process. But I don't remember using most of these, like hardly ever. The first one is the Adherer. And the Adherer in this book, as it's presented, is a group of humans who were kidnapped by alien beings, like far realms, extra-dimensional, aberrations, and were put into the ethereal plane, and they were used as livestock. They were bled of their blood for food. And they were modified and changed so that they would keep producing blood, and that it drove them insane. And their masters were wiped out. And yet, they're still here. And now, they can't stop collecting blood. So, it's a pleasantly creepy monster. Really fits in with the whole Lovecraftian feel. I can see this as being either a one-off, you just throw one out there if you want, or definitely the central theme of a story arc. Not necessarily a whole campaign, but a story arc, where you're now trying to find out why are people missing, and you find out who's behind it, and you find the Adherers involved. Because they're called the Adherers because they have like flayed skin, which allows them to helps them grapple and such. It's very warped and twisted. I was quite impressed. Then we have the Delver. The Delver are essentially giant aberration worms. Almost like, not quite slugs, but very similar to that. And they bore through the earth, creating tunnels and chambers, and they burst through into subterranean cities, and sometimes they come through the surface. And they seem to have some plan. But no one knows what the plan is. Some say the Delvers themselves don't know. But they're incredibly good at burrowing through rock and stone. So they could definitely be placed in any subterranean environment, or a surface area that's near a solid rock face. So like, if your city is on a granite ledge or something like that, or there just happens to be at the foot of a mountain where there's a lot of rock, these things can burst out of the ground, wreak untold amounts of havoc, and then leave again for no discernible reason. So I think that there's a lot of potential here for a really good, solid monster hunt with these guys. And they're dangerous. They're not to be trifled with. Next is the Dire Corby, which is very similar to the Owlbear in the fact that it's a humanoid creature with a bird head. They're excellent climbers. They are very demonic in nature. In fact, there's a strain of them which are. Again, I don't remember the original entry for these. I'm sure it was no less absurd than the owlbear. But these are very useful as hunters in the night of either subterranean or even surface areas. They could come out of a cave complex, hunt, and go back down. They're excellent climbers. And they'd be great if people are going in to explore a cave system. These would be great predators of people. Think of the movie The Descent. These would fill that role that the creatures in that movie played very easily. Next we have the Disenchanter, which is a very odd beast. Kind of looks like a camel with a big trunk. And when it touches magic items, it drains their power. And this is how it survives. If it doesn't get magic energy, it will starve to death. And so you could follow them because they're going to find treasure, or you could inadvertently find yourself being followed by them because you have treasure. And all of the chaos that would ensue in either case. If you find something that they want and you want to keep it, you're going to have to deal with these creatures and prevent that. This is a good monster to use against a group that has some kind of magic, because especially in the early days when your magic items are dear and you don't want to lose them, the Disenchanter would be good to throw at a party. Next we have the Flail Snail. I've actually used the Flail Snail both in D&D and in Gamma World, and I use it just as a flat-out monster. Big nasty snail with flails on its antennas that can smack things around. I never really took advantage of the fact that the shell of the Flail Snail is this wonderfully colored, rainbow bright, and all kinds of patterns and stuff on it, and reflects magic. So you can use it as a definite monster against a party that really likes to fling the spells. If they've never encountered one of these things before, this could be a rude awakening for them. It's also a good source of finding finding one of these things to get the shell themselves for magic items, because the magical capability of the shell function for a time after it's been killed. Next we have the Flump. Now the Flump is where I disagree with this book. This is not a misfit monster in my book. The Flump is awesome sauce. The Flump is my favorite monster from all the D&D versions there is. I love the Flump. It's a floating jellyfish that has poisonous spikes. It's lawful good and has a monastic tradition. How could you not love that? But here they are presented as protectors of all that is good. Their job is to warn people about evil aberrations and to fight them. And they literally fling themselves into space between the worlds in an attempt to disseminate their mission as far as possible. So it has a Lovecraftian bent, but these are good guys, which is kind of a nice change of pace. I still love the Flump, and there's a picture of a Flump right there. Flying jellyfish. Love them. Sorry, they're not silly. Next we have the Lava Child, which is in here presented as a creature that looks very much like Gollum. Small, wiry, big, oversized head. And they were, according to this, they were originally meant as warriors by a race of genies, the Jinn. And they didn't come out quite the way they were supposed to, but they were still useful. And the most useful feature they have is that metal passes right through them, and they can pass right through metal. It simply doesn't exist for them. Metal is like air. It can't hurt them, and they can't be stopped by it. And that's dangerous. That's definitely going to be something that your party is not prepared for, particularly your big, bad fighters in their plate mail and their two-handed swords. You know, they're just not going to know what to do, and suddenly their weapons are just whiffing through these things like they're swinging a fly swatter. Absolutely going to terrify fighters for the first time in the same kind of way that a rust monster does. Next we have the Lurker. Now this is the entire... They combine three monsters here. Executioner's Hoods, Lurker above, and the Trapper. And they combine them into one race. And there are three different parts of the life cycle of the same species. So the Executioner Hood are the young. They drop down, they eat small animals or grab people's heads, hence the name Executioner's Hood. and they smother them, and they consume just the head. So if you find a corpse in a subterranean environment with nothing, no head, that could be a sign that there's executioner's hoods around. The lurker above disguises itself as a ceiling and then flies down onto their victims. Now, they're the males of the species and just about animal intelligent. They are like a 3. And the last member of the species are the trappers. And they're the females. They cover the floors of an area. They are very slow, cumbersome, but they're bright. They know how to lure people in with treasure. They know how to set themselves up in an area that's got lots of traffic. And they can grow to be immensely large and have huge broods of executioner's hoods and lurkers above. So this could be a really serious threat to a group of people that are going into one of their territories, either underground or even a big city in a sewer system. These could be very dangerous. Next we have the Tojinadas, which again I'm probably saying wrong, and I apologize. I don't have any idea what language that's based on. And they are kind of sea turtle-like, very large. And they are water elemental spirits that have been trapped in a physical form and have been cursed with a racial memory. So all of these creatures, every one of them, has fragments of every single member of their race that's ever lived. And they're water elemental forms, spirits. They want to be as flexible and fluid as the water, and they're not. This kind of makes them insane. It makes an interesting encounter. It can go very good because they've got lots of information. You're going to want to talk to these people if they might have something you need to know, but they're also very unpredictable. Because anything you say or do could set them off. Because you could remind them of something that happened centuries ago that has nothing to do with what's going on in the present. Very dangerous. And last we have the wolves in sheep's clothing, and that is what that is right there. See that stump with the little bunny on it and the 2 female elves looking at it? Yeah, nice cleavage on that shot on that one. But the stump is an aberration. It's a creature that hides itself in forests and looks like a stump. And it essentially uses an animal as a lure on top of it. It takes a real animal and it riddles it with vines and tendrils and makes it into a puppet and uses that to pull larger things in. And as these things get older, they want to pull in intelligent prey. They become selective. They become very picky about what they eat. Now I got to tell you, if I walked into a woods and I saw a clearing, and there's a stump over there, and there's a cute little fuzzy thing on it, and the cute little fuzzy thing doesn't run away when I am now in the clearing, I'm going to think that's a rabid animal. I am not going to get near it. And I can imagine that anyone in a fantasy world where there really are things that under every rock and root and behind every tree that want to kill you and eat you, you'd be even more paranoid. I always thought these were kind of dumb, even the first time I saw them. That was it S3 maybe, I think, the module. But they're interesting looking. They've become iconic in the game, and they did a decent job of making them a credible threat by making them emphasizing the fact that they're smart, that they can hunt intelligence creatures, that they will use lures such as treasure or weapons and things like that to pull an intelligent person in to get them close enough so they can grab them and can consume them. So, they redeem them as much as you can. I still don't think they're much of a threat to gamers, to players, their characters at all. Because what player in his right mind is going to fall for the cute fuzzy thing in the forest? We've all learned there are no cute harmless things in the game. Everything wants to kill you. Everything wants to eat you. And the cute fuzzy things are always dangerous. Of course, the big nasty things are always dangerous too. There's very little in this game, except for maybe first level characters, that aren't dangerous. So this is an excellent book. They did a nice job of redeeming these monsters, the best that could be done with what they had to work with. I recommend it. I had fun reading it. My only real critique of this is the font size. The font is way too small. I had to use a magnifying glass. Even with bifocals, that font was too small for me. Alright? You need to be 12-point fonts, folks. Any game designers out there, 12-point fonts, please. For my aging eyes, I would appreciate it.